We are going live. Got a couple of minutes here. So this morning we only have 2 speakers. Oop, I'm muted. No, I'm good still. Okay, thanks. So everyone here is an experienced Toastmaster, pretty much. Oh, we do.
She's done table topics already.
Oh, yeah. I was here when Maggie did table topics. So I know everyone pretty much has a job almost. So everyone is open game for diner questions today because I'm Toastmaster.
Well, Sylvia still needs a quiz master.
Everyone's covered.
Sorry, I don't have my blanket, or else I'll be covered.
Yeah, well, we're working on him. He's still work in progress with his jests. We have 1 more minute. Are we started? Okay, well, good morning. We're calling the meeting to order this morning. Do we have any announcements this morning? Oh, come on up, Dave. Come on up.
Thank you for letting me have the time.
Yeah, sure.
With mixed emotions, I am leaving Lockport. I just sold my house 2 days ago. And November 5th, we're going down to North Carolina, the dry part, to find a new home. The good news is I intend to getting up Thursday mornings, and I'm not going to be coming from Beijing, China, but I'm probably coming outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. If anyone's interested in some power tools we have to sell, please see me because we have to empty the house. But to thank you for your time, and you won't be seeing me in the future. By Christmas, I'll be down there, but I'll be zooming in on Thursday mornings.
Nice.
So I won't miss you guys completely. Thank you.
Good. We're glad you're still hanging around. That's good. Compliments of Zoom. Oh, we also have.
Good morning.
Come on up.
I am your Toastmaster next week. The theme will be your favorite beverage. 2 things to know. Hey, something fun in the morning. You can have mimosas. Why not? I will only have 2 speakers as well. If you remember, Zach is doing a presentation in Texas and he needed a little more time. He's on the schedule, so would like to give him the time he needs to perfect that. Mike Florio, currently you are his evaluator, just to let you know, since you've given presentations like this. And number 2, since I will be on Zoom, sorry guys, driving in that far is not going to work for me. I would appreciate if somebody would email me and be my Toastmaster buddy for the day and guard the lectern. So that's my announcement. So think about your favorite beverage.
Thanks. Come on up, Kate.
Thank you, Mike. I would like to invite Marty Johnston up here. I have something to present to Marty. Marty, coming up? I sure do, but come on up. It is from someone else. When Karen Stewart visited us a few weeks ago as the Division A director, she brought a gift for you from our leadership from last year because Marty was the Division C director. So in thanks for his service and hard work as the Division C, which is Rochester, folks, he was going out to Rochester, visiting a lot, and ran the contests for Division C and all those areas within. Marty is amazing. Bravo, Marty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, for your support while I was Division C director. And now I have notes, notebook, notepad, and a beverage holder, and I'm sure I'll be making good use of this. So thank you all for your support. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Back to you, Mike.
Congratulations, Marty, our overachiever, for sure. He's got a mug now for his favorite beverage, right? You're right, Dave. We need to do the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. I am going to turn the meeting over this morning to our Toastmaster, Sylvia Baptiste, and we're going to be probably hungry by the time we leave here. Talking about diners this morning. Sylvia, good morning.
Morning, everyone. I did yesterday at work, I was playing with 4-year-olds all day. It was really a nice change from yelling at 44-year-olds to 4-year-olds. And I started doing the little agenda during my spare time and being interrupted. What am I doing there? What are you doing here, Miss Sylvia? What are you doing? That's all they kept on asking me. And so I forgot, and I apologize to the 2 speakers and the evaluators. I left them off of my lovely, colorful agenda today. Not on purpose, but as soon as I got home and put it down on my kitchen table, I said, oh dear, I left out 4 important people. Everyone is important, so I'm sorry for the roles. So today on Zoom, we have David Jones, Margot, Tracy, Eric, Larry McKenzie, my one speaker I forgot, Zach, and Les, my second evaluator, and Phil Russell. No Anne Marie, and you're it, Marty. You volunteered to be quote master. If she hops on, we will let her do that. Until then, it's Marty. And then in the building here, we have David, Len, myself, Jackie, Steve, Jill, Carol, Mary. Who is that? Okay, Dave, Beth, Kate, Joe, Marty. Did I miss anyone else? Yes. Our guest. Welcome. I think this is the second time I've seen you, but you've been here 3 times. Great. Maggie, right? Maggie is here. Great. Okay. So I picked diners, and what is the origin of this word diners? What made us start this? So back in 1872, Walter Scott, who sold food out of a horse-pulled wagon to employees of the Province Journal in Province, Rhode Island, he started this. He had windows in his carriage, his wagon, I guess you want to call it. And then it started going on into the factories, going outside of them and having their employees have a hot meal during the afternoon. Where did this all originated? New Jersey, of course. Jersey, yes. Most exciting diners still retain the long train-like shape, although the majority of the classic diners are prefabs now. Handful were made out of the old trains and trolley cars because they were the ideal thing that people loved it. So the oldest diner in the US, does anyone have a clue where that is? Well, it's called White Horse Tavern in Newport. How about that? There is Yep, that's the oldest in 1673. And since 1730, who's splitting hairs, it's functioned over many times, not just as a diner, but the building's there. So in Niagara County, we have many. Now we call them more restaurants than diners, but we have many. And I'm going to start with my little old hometown in Niagara Falls, the Marketplace. That's a big one. High Park Cafe, Toast and Rose Cafe. In Lockport, we have Tom's Diner, Dee's Sugar Shack, and many more. I could go on and on and on. Newfane, Bill's Diner. Wilson is Sunset Grill. Youngstown is Youngstown Village. And as you go east to Rochester, there is many, many more. So I think this is a good time to let's introduce our roll holders. And Tracy, we did not do the inspiration. Do you have one for us today?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. So I have to be honest, I forgot that I was doing inspiration. I was looking up quotes. So I'm going to turn some of these quotes into an inspiration.
It works.
And Anthony Bourdain, while he's traveling, he always stops at a local diner just to find out about those towns. So I hope today that we learn from the people we meet, the speeches we hear, and their evaluators. But I also have a public service announcement from an anonymous source. Skinny people are easy to kidnap. Stay safe, eat cake. Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, I like that. Our master, word master, grammarian, the WAG, is Mike Licata.
Thank you, Sylvia. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. The word of the day is casual. Casual, you can be used as an adjective, as a noun. The definition as an adjective is happening by chance, fortuitous. And the definition as a noun is a worker employed only irregularly. So please use the word of the day casual in table topics and throughout the meeting. Madam Toastmaster. Oh, sorry. My other roles are, as master and grammarian, is to double check everyone's use of the English language today and report back at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be splitting that soon, hopefully. Quote master, I don't see Anne Marie on Zoom. So Marty, do you have a quote for us?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and especially Maggie. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to preface this quote by saying that whether you're in a diner, to go along with the theme, or wherever you are in life, this is the quote. Whatever your grade or position, if you know how and when to speak and when to remain silent, your chances of real success are proportionally increased. As by Ralph Smedley, founder of Toastmasters International. Thank you.
Zach is on Zoom. He has a just for us. Are you on Zoom, Zach?
I'm here. Yep.
Right.
Okay. I have a good one for you this morning. A priest, a rabbit, and a minister walk into a bar. The bartender says to the rabbit, "What will you have?" The rabbit says, "I don't know. I'm just here because of autocorrect." Madam Toastmaster.
Quizmaster this morning is Beth Banks. She's filling in for Marshall this morning. Beth?
Morning. Morning. As quizmaster, I always like this one, 20 some years of teaching. Quizmaster works for me, you know. I get to listen carefully to some of the things you say and quiz you on them at the end. And I do want to take a moment to tell you my favorite diner is the diner in Penn Yan, New York. It is across from Wagner's. It is definitely casual dining to the extreme. You get to sit at the bar and watch them cook your breakfast. So that's my favorite. Thank you. Yeah.
Good food at those places. Our general evaluator, Steve Smith, is on his way up.
Thank you. Well, my job today is general evaluator, which means I get to evaluate the evaluators, evaluate the Toastmaster, and the general tone of the whole meeting. And I'll report back later when you call on me. Thank you.
Timer is on Zoom this morning, Eric Snyder. Eric?
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, good morning. As your timer today, timing is very important. So I will be timing all table topics and our speakers and evaluators. Our table topics timing is 1.5 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. Green at 1.5, yellow 1:45, and red at 2 minutes. Typical speeches are 5 to 7 minutes with a 30-second buffer. And our evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes with a 15-second buffer. And I will be timing throughout the meeting. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Eric. And now we're going to start with table topics. Mike Florio is going to come up and describe table topics and give us some questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Sylvia. Thank you, everyone. And of course, as you probably already know, Maggie, because you've done this before, table topics is your chance to get up here and shoot from the hip, kind of talk about whatever. And I get to torture some people with questions and drag them up here and give them 2 minutes to do it. So you have 2 minutes, there is a buffer, and then you have to make sure that you use the word. Now, I can't start table topics without, doing the king of diners, all right? And that's Mr. Licata. Dave Licata, come on up. The question of the day for you is, you've been to every diner in Western New York. What's your favorite diner and why? Very simple, straightforward.
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My first big boy job out of college, I sold radio advertising for WJJL in Niagara Falls. You didn't mention the Y, you didn't mention the wedge. I was just outraged. I couldn't believe you missed those obvious when you went through it. I'm going to adjust this just a bit. I was on my way to a Lockport Sunrise Optimist meeting. We were meeting at the Best Western at that time. And I suddenly remembered as I was about to turn right into the lot that if I went to Sophia's Diner on Military Road in the city of Buffalo, my boy was going to be there. Diners, drive-ins, and dives. So if you ever catch that episode and you squint real hard and you see this maroon shirt, that's me. And Guy Fieri was kind enough to pose with me. I have a picture of him and I together that I treasure. But he did so much for casual diners. And because when he goes into a place, they're independent. They're not part of a chain. So I always wished I could spend more time explaining to him how reliant Licata Brothers Wholesale was on independence. And I really appreciated his efforts to highlight the independents. But much to my chagrin, I figure they're getting $1 million of free advertising here. They're going to be in reruns forever at Sophia's. And at the end, I couldn't believe it. They handed us a bill for the breakfast. See, I knew a lot about advertising and knew a lot about eating out. And this is where it all came together. and I couldn't believe they wanted to charge me. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, David. I love hanging out at diners. I love food. I like being at the counter, chatting with people that you never really met before. It's almost like table topics on steroids, right? You get to chat with them and then you get to leave. So it's not, in Lockport, we've got what? We've got Tom's. We've got Bill's down and Laporte's. Jackie, do you hang out at diners? Do you go to diners anymore? I know I used to be able to go there with $10 and have a $5 breakfast and give $5 tip to the waitress. But now I think that's a 20. So not as many people go as much. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I'm a big fan of casual dining, as we have in diners. And I have to say, I think my favorite diner in Lockport is still Tom's. They were very welcoming to us when our former meeting place, Friendly's Restaurant, abruptly closed. That morning, David and I walked across the street and he talked to the people in Tom's Diner, and the next week we had our meeting. They were very welcoming. They rearranged the furniture for us and tried to make us feel at home. The waitresses quickly learned our methods and what everyone liked to eat and to keep the coffee cups full. So we had a good time meeting at Tom's. Technology put a stop to that when we shut down for COVID and started meeting online. Tom's couldn't accommodate us anymore, so that was the end of that. And nobody here makes us breakfast. It's just not the same. But, it's the getting together that's important, not so much where you do it, but the fact that we're all together and enjoying each other's company every single Thursday morning of the year, except Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thanks, Jackie. Maggie, you willing to participate this morning? Do you want to give it a go? All right. Now, I like hamburgers too. I like a good juicy burger. We've got, I can't eat Reeds anymore. That's kind of, now I was just in Los Angeles and I went to eat at an In-N-Out burger, which was kind of cool. And those were actually pretty good burgers, really good. And then there's Five Guys and, there's a few more, Wendy's or whatever, but what's your favorite burger joint? Do you like burgers? And, yeah, how do you feel about burger joints? Casual burger joint.
Thank you for letting me come back. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Okay. First diner that I remember is Christie's Diner in Beansville, Ontario. And when I was in high school, I would have 65 cents for lunch. And we would go to Christie's Diner and get a burger and French fries, and I would put gravy, vinegar, and ketchup on my French fries, and I loved them. The burgers were real juicy, homemade, seared. Now they call them smash burgers. What? Those are burgers. And I just appreciate that I had that opportunity to get away from the school, go and have something to eat, have time with my friends, and have that great memory. However, nowadays, I love cooking. That's my passion. I make my burgers and I make my own hamburger buns, which I'm happy to share the recipe. 40 minutes, start to finish brioche buns, delicious. You'll never eat another store-bought bun. I appreciate diners and I appreciate the architecture of diners. And if I'm traveling, I certainly love to eat in that casual setting. But given my druthers, I would choose to make a homemade meal and enjoy it with my family. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Let's go to the airwaves now. You know, we're gonna, we need to take a trip down to North Carolina. David Jones, how are you? You know, we talk about our diners here and, you know, Dave's heading down there, the other Dave. And, you know, y'all, he says, y'all coming down there now, you hear? So, you know, get Dave ready. What diners should he, you know, should he avoid the diners? Should you like, do you like him, wait, what's that? What's the diner? Jeez, can't remember. Anyway, it'll come to me. What diners should he avoid? And what diners that are must diners for him? David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Charlotte, we're kind of fancy. We don't have your neighborhood diners. We have your Denny's and IHOPs. I can't really think of any local diner that you would go to. They're mostly all franchises. But I grew up in Miami, Florida, and down there we didn't have any diners either. Again, we had the Denny's. We had Lum's, which was beer cooked hot dog place. It was a stand originally, and then they turned into a franchise. They've since gone out of business. It was a very casual place to go eat. I can remember going there with my family when I was very young. Of course, I don't know if you remember, if you had them up there, we had Sambo's down in Miami. They went out of business. I don't think the name was appreciated, and the food probably was just as bad as the name. But as far as little diners, whether it was Charlotte or Miami or the Florida Keys where I also grew, I can't think of any small diner. I see them like whenever I travel around, but I've never actually stopped in there. I figure it's for locals only. So if I'm traveling, I'm not going to stop in and stomp on their private grounds. I always stick to the franchises. But being a single guy, I pretty much just stay here and cook. I don't go out much for breakfast or lunch. Pretty much just stay here and cook my own foods. So for Dave, I don't really have any places for him to go here locally, except for dinner. There's 100 places that we can take him, and hopefully when he's here, we'll be able to take him and his wife out to dinner. So thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thanks, Dave. You know, I just thought of it. It was the Waffle House. I talked to some Southern guys, and you know, they could be a scary place.
Yeah, we have them here. They're nasty.
Bojangles. Yeah. Those are the ones maybe, Dave, you might want to avoid. Interesting thing though, Sambo's, you talk about Sambo's. Well, Friendly's used to be Sambo's. Okay. And that was my first job. And I was a short order cook for breakfast at Sambo's. I was about 16 years old when I got that job. And let me tell you, a Sunday breakfast shift was unbelievable. Could have been the beginning and the end of my career as a short order cook. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on. Do we still? Okay. All right. You volunteer? Okay. Yeah, I know you're shy, Dave, but all right, well, you know what? This is an extended one, right? Because we only have 2 speakers this morning. Dave, and one's a very long speech. Okay. So we'll have time for 2 more, 2 or 3 more. So Dave, you're anxious. Come on up. Let's hear, you know, your thoughts on diners from New York.
Diners are for coffee. And when I went from Hudson Valley, I went to school in SUNY Oswego. And the stop you had to make was the fly fishing capital of the world. And that was in Roscoe. Roscoe had a very famous diner, Roscoe Diner. Everybody went there for not only the fly fishing, but a lot of upstate colleges, that was the stop in the Catskills on the way up to SUNY Oswego and all the other ones upstate, way up here. Oh my God, as far as Buffalo, oh my God, that was a long trip. But it also has another significance. I know we're in Bill's Mafia territory, but I have to relate a NFL story that happened in Roscoe Diner. The Jets have a very long history of bungling players like they now have at Hassan Reddick as a pass rusher. But back in the day, the best cornerback in football was also holding out. His name was Darrell Revis. Darrell Revis wouldn't come to the stadium to negotiate. Where did they negotiate? Finally, they got him? The Roscoe Diner. And so Roscoe Diner has special significance to me because I stopped many times on the way to college. And it was the place the Jets got the best cornerback ever in Darrell Revis. Anyone who knows the NFL knows his name, all-star cornerback. So that's my story on diners. I got lots of diners from Queens, New York, but I'll leave you one with that, Roscoe. Thank you. And that was my casual speech.
Got that in there under the wire. Margot, I see you don't have any speech today or not speaking, and
I already did.
you already did?
Sure, I talked about next week.
Oh my gosh, that's right, but that doesn't work for me. Now you're up there in Somerset,
Mm-hmm.
middle of nowhere. I mean,
Mhm.
do you cook meals? Is that all you do at your place, or you have a little diner that you kind of cruise to with the hubby? Or what do you do?
What do we do? Thank you for this opportunity to speak about our casual dining. Now, my husband loves to cook at home, especially in the summer. He loves to grill. However, as many of you know, my 92-year-old father has recently moved here. In fact, he stopped by a minute ago to drop off my newspaper this morning. And he lives in a little cottage behind the winery. My dad's joy in life is to go out to eat. And so I can't tell you how many times he'll say to me, what are we doing for dinner? Or what are you doing for dinner? And let's go out. So if we're grilling chicken or hamburgers, he's here, he's with it. If I'm making fish, he's here. There's some things he's picky about and won't eat. Tonight we have the Farm Bureau dinner, and we're now discussing whether he's paying for everybody's dinner, including my son's, or just paying for his own. He's 92. You just got to go with the flow. We have a couple haunts locally that we love. One is the Grain House. It's the old Teapot Wings and Things in Barker, owned by a fellow Lion. The Northern Pier in Alcott during the summer does a fabulous breakfast, and every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, join us for breakfast there. That's what my dad insists on doing. Right now, we're going for breakfast at the only place that's open on a Sunday morning around here in Alcott called the Park Place. So believe it or not, there are many, many places that you can eat out here in the boonies. However, if you ask my husband, he wants me cooking dinner or he wants cooking dinner, he'd much rather eat at home. So I'm not sure where my time is, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting very close to a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And so I will leave that with you. And that's my experience with casual dining, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. We have time for one more. Len, you got a minute to come up and share with us your favorite dining. Now, I know you've been around. You've been to a few diners. You've had a few burgers. Come on up and let us know. All right. Oh, he's got to get his timer ready. And let us know about your favorite diner.
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. I do enjoy diners. I like the homemade food. I don't know what classifies as homemade when you're in a restaurant. It's not a home unless the wait staff lives there. I don't know. It was always a strange term to me. But casual dining and me go back a long way. I love the corner diner, the non-chains. I love establishing a rapport with the wait staff. You know, when you're a regular there, and you kind of go in and they know your regular order. The coffee is there as soon as you sit down, which is very, very important. They don't bring all the, the creamers and the sugars and stuff because they know you drink it black, which is the only way to drink coffee. Bill's Diner in Newfane, a wonderful place, nice open setting. There's tables on one side, a little bit quieter than a big open area. Service is always great there. Tom's Diner treated us well for so many years. The ports. I've been to that one in Youngstown. That's a wonderful diner. It's always great when they bring in like desserts from local bakeries, small bakeries, and they have a case there. And for my money, that pie display where you can see all the different pies, stuff that you're never going to have at home or make yourself, to grab a slice of that is an urge I'm just not able to resist more often than not. So I love diners. They're part of Americana, casual dining at its finest. Mr. Topic Master.
Thanks, Len. Yeah, I'll go to Laporte's and I'll just have a slice of that apple pie for breakfast every once in a while and just kind of go off the rails. Anyways, thanks for letting me go off the rails this morning. And let's get a timers report first and then a word master report. Who is there he is.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here. All right, everybody look casual. I have a timers report here. Everybody qualified. Dave Licata, a minute 51. Jackie at a minute and 36. Our guest Maggie at a minute and 34. David Jones, 136. David Shannon, 148. Margot at 144 and Len at 150. So everybody qualifies as far as time. Mr. Table Topics.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Let's get a word report. Michael.
Thank you, Mike. I heard David Licata used it, Jackie used it, Maggie, our guest, used it, David Jones used it, David Shannon used it, Len used it twice, but I did not hear Margot. She did use it? All right. All right. So everyone, that's fine. We're all good. It's fine. So I guess all three are, excuse me, not three, all of our table topics contestants qualified this morning. 7.
Margot, forgive him. Don't give him the night shift.
That's okay. I did use it twice, once at the beginning, once at the end.
Oh, boy, there you go. 3 Davids. So make sure you know what you're doing and cast your votes for, I don't know, the vast plethora of people that came up and gave us their opinion. I will hand this back over to Sylvia.
Thank you, Mike. Great job. So while you deciding who you feel is the best table topics person this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about the food. And I'm going to start with the 1950s. The diners, they chose meat to be their main thing. Fried chicken, pork chops, meatloaf, pot roast, potatoes, and 2 vegetables. 50s drinks were milkshakes, malts, ice cream sodas, flavored colas, such as lemon, vanilla, cherry soda. And Len, I agree with you. They did not mention pie. I would have thought pie would have been one of the biggest things. I mean, maybe I could watch American, what was that show with American, help me folks. No, it was a movie. American Graffiti. You know, you go into the diners and you see the pies and the desserts and oh, I never saw that one. The Diner. You said that The Diner, is that what it's called? David Licata's telling me what good movies to watch. And then the breakfast foods in the 1950s. Porridge or oatmeal, followed by eggs, bacon, fried bread, then toast and homemade marmalade and milky tea. Get all of that one, milky tea. Lately, well, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but then the popular, as well, being a quick meal and a cheaper meal at the time. That's why people went to diners, the low cost, and they were getting the money for their big food for, what do you call that? The bang for their money. Thank you. I'm tongue-tied this morning. So they got tons of food. Their plates were always overloaded and they had the low cost. So now to our speakers. And as I mentioned earlier, we only have 2 this morning. Jill is our first evaluator and she will be evaluating Kate this morning. Jill, could you please come on up? Morning, Jill.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm not sure where Sylvia got the Sunset Grill being a diner in Wilson. Talk to the internet, yeah, because unlike the wilds of Appleton, Wilson does not have a diner at the moment. We have to eat breakfast at home, I guess. Yeah. Katie is giving a question and answer session speech. Typically, this is a level 4 elective for persuasive influence. And normally she gives us, we give a 5 to 7 minute speech about her topic and then question and answer. But we've had a lot of long speeches and she just doesn't want to subject us to 20 minutes of Katie. So she's just going to do question and answer. And she would like us to ask anything we'd like about the Red Cross, with a general focus on hurricane recovery, blood drives, CPR, and or fire prevention. And I'm guessing that also means fire recovery for people. So that is what Katie is talking about. And her title is Red Cross Question and Answer. I'm down the street, across the country, around the world, and I'm tongue-tied too today.
What is the time parameter?
5 to 7.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to those of you who responded to my email. Some of you saw that I sent an email out on Monday to give us a heads up. You can sit down if you want to. Thank you, Sylvia. Don't feel tied to the lectern here. I do have a banner that I thought that I could hang here, but then folks online wouldn't be able to see it. And then up here, in any case, it does say one of the mottos of the Red Cross, which is down the street, across the country, and around the world. You all have heard of the Red Cross. The Red Cross is the second most recognized brand after Coca-Cola, because the Red Cross is known worldwide. So here, I'm not going to talk as much. I do appreciate that Mike sent me a question. Could you ask a question, Mike? And what I'll do is repeat the question for anybody that's here in the room so those of you on Zoom can see, because I would love to hear your questions and practice for work in responding to questions. Mike, you're first, since you answered first. The question from Mike Licata was, how do I prioritize my role within the Red Cross? And is that me personally? In general, there are so many disasters happening all the time. I can't imagine being at the top level down and then deciding where resources are allocated. I will say that right now it's all hands on deck. Those of you who know me know I've only been with the Red Cross for 2.5 years. Those who've been in the Red Cross for decades have said that this response, with the combination of Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, is very similar to even Katrina and its devastation because of the widespread chaos and the long recovery that's expected in so many spaces and places. Prioritizing is a challenge. I could go on and on. You all know that. right now, I run blood drives. Those of you who know me, I run blood drives, but it's all hands on deck. And those of our volunteers and employees that have been deployed down south, we're filling the gaps and filling the pieces. So that's something. If you don't ask questions, I'll just keep talking. But if you can raise your hand on Zoom or in the room, I'd love to hear your questions. Dave Shannon.
Worked in school district as a coach. I was a bowling coach in Hudson Valley. I was a bowling coach here in Lockport. And the coaches all had to take CPR as part of their training. But there was always a suggestion, why doesn't the Red Cross or some other organization give CPR training to every teacher, not just the coaches? Because in many situations, it's not related to sports, where it can be used. And so my question is, if there are any districts that give CPR to the whole staff?
Great question. David Shannon, retired teacher. I'll give a summary of his question. Retired teacher used to be coaches only were given CPR training, and his desire would be that all teachers are CPR trained. Is that in a nutshell the question? In most school districts now, that is a requirement. I was a teacher for almost 10 years and I was not a coach, and we were required. So it does vary by district, but in New York State, it is required now. It doesn't need to be a Red Cross certification, but CPR training is so important. And I'm a hands-only CPR instructor. Some of you in here have taken the sessions with me or here at the YMCA. And that's something that even the students are being taught now in their health classes and their gym classes. Where is the AED unit nearby, and those kinds of skills? It's a great question. It's more and more all over the place. Especially since Damar Hamlin received CPR on live television last January as a Buffalo Bills player. So CPR training is hugely important, and it shouldn't just be in the schools, folks. Every single person should be trained in CPR. 4 out of 5 times likely, if something is going to happen, it's someone you know. It's someone you know. So get trained. It's a really good question. I don't see any. Oh, I see Eric, hand raised. Eric, your question is next.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Kate, question regarding blood drives. Now, what are are they doing blood drives right now in response to Hurricane Helene and Milton? Are they doing any drives as of right now?
Excellent question. Those of you who know Eric know he is an excellent platelets donor. Every other week he gives platelets, and such a supporter of those in need. If you hadn't heard, folks, blood drives were canceled across 6 states because of this. And the Red Cross and other blood banks, we handle almost 50% of blood banking across the country, and other smaller community blood banks do the rest. We already, with anticipating the crisis, were moving resources into place, knowing that the supply wasn't being made by those states, especially North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. And they're still not holding them in a lot of places and spaces, and you can see why. So this comes back to down the street, across the country and around the world. We're saving somebody. We're giving them more birthdays. We're giving them more holidays and time with their loved one. The demand doesn't ease up, and the need is always great. Eric, you're amazing. What you do, thank you. Every 2 seconds, someone needs blood. Every 2 seconds. 1 in 7 hospital patients get a transfusion. That's huge. Any other questions? I see David Jones. David.
Yes, Kate, I am one of those people who has never given blood, not for any particular reason, but I recently heard, and I don't know if this is just myth, but somebody told me that women live longer because they give blood unintentionally for part of their lives, where men usually don't. We have all that iron and everything inside us, and they said that giving blood allows us to cleanse our body and have a healthier life. And I don't know if that's just myth or if that's true, but just wanted to see if you know.
What an excellent question. Started as a myth. It's true. I mean, back in the Middle Ages, they leached and whatnot, or even into like 100 years ago, they were still doing that. However, this is fascinating topic. It's not that the iron is too heavy typically. It's in men because you don't menstruate, and women also after you're not menstruating anymore, your cholesterol builds up. And when you give blood, this is now proven in the last decade, 2 decades with science, you are literally giving that blood away. It still can be taken by a patient because it's healthy enough, but your bone marrow is always making more blood. And so you are cleaning your blood. Do it every 8 weeks, folks. You can give blood every 8 weeks. And that's my time, so I will end there, but you'll hear more from me about the Red Cross in the future. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Myself, you, ma'am. Thank you. Great job. Our second evaluator is on Zoom. Les Robinson will be evaluating Larry McKenzie. Les? Les?
How you doing?
Hi.
I don't have Larry's title. I don't have time. I don't have anything.
Okay, Larry is level 4, it's anonymous, and lessons I have learned, and it's a 5 to 7, Larry?
Correct.
Correct. 5 to 7 speech, Eric. Larry McKenzie.
Okay. Before you start my time, I actually did instant message you, Les, with my, or not instant message, but I messaged you through the chat with my title and the level 4 with that.
I didn't see it, so we're gonna
Okay,
go.
sorry.
I'm not gonna pull it off now. We're just gonna go. I'll get it
Not a
later.
problem. We're ready to rock. Mr. Timer. I had the unique opportunity, as many of us maybe did, was to grow up in a time when going out late in the evening was something that we used to do. And way back in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, I used to own a tavern in Niagara Falls. One of the biggest things that we found is that when you would close up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, people were hungry. Where do we go? What are we going to do? Not a lot of things were open back then, but there were those neighborhood places like the Wedge. The Wedge restaurant was something that that was our go-to. We would go there and get in there 3:15 in the morning, and we'd actually have something to eat. And there'd be a group of us that would sit around and talk about probably nothing, but we actually had the opportunity to sit, enjoy the time there, and enjoy the people in the diner. My go-to there was the cheesesteak sandwich, the French fries with gravy, and yes, a little bit of ketchup. One of the other places that we used to go to too was a place called Junior's Truck Stop. It was on 56th Street in Niagara Falls. And that would be one of the places that you may determine would be called a swimming term, such as a dive, but it was a go-to diner that we used to go to also. One of the things that I enjoyed about that was I think it helped me to look at something I was going to do later in life. And one of the things that they had on the wall, they had this really cool thing that was attached to the wall. And you put a quarter in or a dime, I forget what it was. I think it was a quarter. And you got to push these buttons and play 3 of your favorite songs. It was a jukebox at every booth. I found that to be something that was really cool. As I transgressed into my later years after I sold my restaurant, my tavern, I became an entertainer, a DJ. With that, I used to travel quite a bit, and I was on the road. We would drive to an event, and after we would get done with the event, it would be late at night. And a lot of the small towns that we would go to, there was nothing open. So what I found was that there were certain areas that you would go to that had these unique diners. One of them was mentioned earlier was a casual diner, and it was on the old Route 17, and that was the Roscoe Diner. I'd stopped in there many times. My go-to there was the egg salad sandwich. Excellent. One of the things that was interesting about it was that around the entire diner on the ceiling were banners from all the different colleges, because that was a go-to spot for the colleges. They would all stop there and have something to eat at this diner. Well, what I found out is that these local places were something that I could not understand when I looked at the menu, because I would stop, they would hand me a menu, and I would say, oh God, I was thinking about having breakfast, some eggs. Then I would get the menu and it's 47 pages long. I would open page 1, ooh, breakfast. Page 2, there was burgers. Page 3, page 4, page 5. There was everything on that menu, from Greek food, seafood. They had pasta. They had, I don't know how they made it in the kitchen. And how did they, as a restaurant and tavern owner, how did they have all of the supplies to make that? So if I wanted to go in and have a gyro sandwich, or if I wanted to have a steak dinner, I could have had those in any of those places. I found that quite cool, because to have the ability to drive along any of America's roads and stop in a local place and see some of the local charm, not only from the diner itself, but for the people that would hang out there. Some of the unique ones that I had saw were train cars that were converted, some old buildings that were, you'd never think would even have anything that would relate to food. But I guess, as myself, I'm a kind of guy that loves to eat. So therefore, diners were fun for me. Now you may ask yourself, why? Why do we, I guess you'd say, migrate to these places? And one of them is it's like the old Friends coffee shop, the TV show on Friends, or even Cheers. The thing was a place where everybody knows everybody and they like to go. Well, all of those unique things, I think, made me remember one of our members that used to give a lot of speeches, and he would talk about these couples that he would sit and listen to in the coffee shops. And you learn a lot by doing nothing, just listening and checking things out. And that was Tom. Tom used to tell some wonderful stories about diners. So when today's topic came up, I thought, what a wonderful thing that he must be looking down saying, hey, yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you people are talking about this morning. And I thank him for that, because it gave me some inspiration as to what I was going to talk about today. Now, the title of my speech was Anonymous. And you may ask why. Well, Anonymous is without actually having any authorship, or basically it was something that's unknown. Well, a lot of the diners around the country, our small towns, when people would say, well, who sent you here? Or how did you find out about us? Well, you were the only place open. So anonymously, I just basically drove in and said, what's for breakfast? Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. So I'm going to start with our evaluators. Oh, I'm sorry.
Timers report for
Timer. You're right. Timer. I have it written here too. Timer, Eric. How did they do?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests. Both of our speakers qualified. Kate at 7:19 and Larry at 6:48. So they both qualify as far as time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. One more time of timing, Eric. Our evaluators this morning, Jill's still writing, and she'll be right up. Here she comes, Jill.
Thank you, Katie, and everyone else who asked questions and maybe thought of questions but didn't ask. Katie, this was an excellent presentation of questions that was very timely as well, because of the Red Cross and all the work it does. You excelled at managing your time. I was worried when that yellow light was on and you took another question. Although with that aspect, because the fact that you were so running against the end, you didn't have a very good ending. You didn't wrap it up. You can't, it was kind of a that's all folks thing at the end. You did give an excellent introduction even without a 5 to 7 minute speech. You kind of answered a little bit about what the Red Cross is about. As always, you speak very quickly. Although it worked well with this speech, I didn't see a real problem with it here. But it was there. I think you could have, of course you were against the time, but you could have mentioned the other iterations of the Red Cross, like the Red Crescent. And there's another one too. I can't remember what it is. Red Crystal. Yeah, because they don't want to acknowledge crosses in other religious oriented countries. Even though it's not Christian based, yes. And I think I learned a lot on yours, just the questions and answers that you gave. The CPR question was very good. And it would have been great to have even more time for more questions and answers if they were out there. So thank you, Katie, for giving us a lot more information about the Red Cross and what you do. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jill. Our second evaluator, Les Robinson. Could you tell us about Larry's evaluation or his speech?
All right. Larry, I loved your speech. I could think of all the diners and all the places I've gone into after bars. Your topic was great. I liked how you brought in the background of your past into the present with all of the food and how it worked. I liked how you walked in and said, hey, this is what I'd like to order. And I could visualize you having the French fries with ketchup because that must be a standard thing through time and space. Because I could visualize you at the table putting the ketchup on the French fries. It was incredible. Also, the 47-page menu. I could see you sitting there going through this, and the way you explained it and your tone and the pace, it was like, I'm really hungry, but now I'm looking at 47 different things, and you could hear in your voice is that your brain wanted to have like half the menu. Like, I'd like to have that. And I've been in places where I have no idea where they bring out the encyclopedia and the size is the room of the Y, and how do they make so many different meals? That always blows my mind. A couple things was I call the bobbing head. You were kind of like doing this. You would be steady, and then you'd go boom, boom, up and down. That was number one. Number two, very simple. You needed a prop. You should have had a coffee cup. Now, when I went to Columbus, I did stop at Waffle House. Okay. I love Waffle House. It's a very interesting event. And one thing I can relate to is the interesting people you meet at Waffle House. I could see the interesting people you probably met at your different diners you went to. It's like going into another dimension on that. But that was your biggest thing, was your body. But I liked your hand movement, your gestures, your tone, your pace, your inflection. All of this brought you in, brought everybody in. It made it a very exciting speech. But your biggest thing was the topic, and I loved it and how you tied it into today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Eric, can we have a timer's report, please?
Yes, you can. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, our two evaluators have qualified. Jill at 2:29 and Les at 2:12. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So before I call our general evaluator up here, I'm going to touch on a couple restaurants, diners that was mentioned from Niagara Falls. Larry mentioned Junior's. My mom was a cook down the street from Junior's for many years, the Water Wheel Restaurant. So we didn't go out to eat much because she would say, I'm not paying that kind of money for what they serve. But she always said, and I never been in Junior's truck stop. I was a little too young. She always said, if you saw truck drivers in the restaurant parking lot, they have good food. They knew where to go. In high school in Niagara Falls, we were allowed to leave the building for lunch. We thought that was great. So the Wedge, David, I lived at the Wedge with French fries and gravy. I also gained many, many pounds. And the other place, no one mentioned, Jen's Coffee Shop on Main Street, attached to Jen's. The coffee shop, I thought that was one of my first places that, going down Main Street, walking, shopping when we can, walk down there, and we would stop at Jen's for dessert or something to drink, milkshake. That was fun, good times. We have a couple of people in the room that have not spoke about their favorite places. Joe, I'll start with you. Do you have a diner story or your favorite diner in Lockport or wherever?
Thank you. Well, I always enjoyed Bill's Diner, which was really nice, and Tom's Diner in Lockport. And of course, my mom and I, when we would meet in the middle of the afternoon during her workday, we would usually go to Laporte's, which was really nice too. What's interesting about Laporte's is the booths were all really close together, so you'd hear other people's conversations behind you. I heard some interesting conversations that I'm not going to get into. It's not exactly G, some of them were not exactly G-rated, no. But it was entertaining during your lunch hour anyway. But my parents and I used to go to this wasn't a diner, it was a restaurant. Some of you may remember a restaurant, I believe it was in Wright's Corners, it was called Wally's. And it wasn't a diner, it was a restaurant, but every Friday night we'd always go there. Now, Wally's was known for their fish fries. I wasn't a fish eater back then when it was open. I was in elementary school, but their fish dinners were pretty good. Well, my father really made me angry this one night because I got home from school because we were going to go to Wally's because every Roman Catholic within a 200-mile radius during Lent congregated at Wally's. They must have made a fortune on fish fries during Lent. So because we were Catholic, we were going to Wally's for their fish fries. Well, this one Friday night, it was a Friday, I came home from school and I was sick. I went into the bathroom and I deposited my lunch in the commode. So I came out and I said to my dad, I just threw up my lunch. "Oh, okay, well, you ready to go eat?" Really? So we had to go out, still went out that night, and I'm sitting here at the restaurant. I couldn't even keep my soda down. I had to run out the door around the side of the building and deposit my soda. Now, it's like, did he really think that I was going to eat a fish fry? Well, I tried to eat that fish fry, that big, thick fish fry, when you don't feel good to begin with. And believe me, when we got home, I was running to the bathroom every 2 seconds. It's like, I said to my mom, could he not have at least asked me, do you feel well enough to go out to eat or do you want to stay home tonight? Well, your father, Joe, when he has plans to go out to dinner, come hell or high water, they're not going to change. Obviously not, but I'd like to see when he doesn't feel good. But he never got sick. That was the problem. My father was never sick a day in his life. So I miss Wally's. Wally's was good. They had good chicken wings there too. So what's up? It was in Wright's Corners. Yeah. Wright's Corners. Yeah. It wasn't a diner, but it was a restaurant. And it was pretty popular back then. I don't think the building is even standing. Yeah, it was torn down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was near, yeah, it was just, yeah, in Wright's Corners. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on 104. Yeah. So, yes, Dave.
We had a restaurant on 104 in the town of Lewiston where 429, he owned 104.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lady told me that her customers told her when Lent started, we're not waiting in line for our fish when those mackerel snappers show up.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Right. But it's like Wally's was known for their fish fries. People love their fish fries, so they must have made millions during Lent. They must have, yeah. It was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I'm really not sure, but like I said, it was years ago. Right, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, junior high, I think I was 12 at the time, yeah, so. Oh, yeah, sure. I actually like them. I wasn't a fish fry eater back then, but at least Wally's did have decent fish fries. I will have to give it that, so. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask Carol to come up and tell us her favorite diner story. Yes. I feel nostalgic today. What could I say? Thank you, Carol.
Well, actually, I did go to the Wedge Diner quite a bit when I was younger. However, the diner I remember the most is in Yorkshire, New York on Route 16. When I was growing up until my middle teens, my grandparents lived in Potter County in Pennsylvania, and we went down Route 16. And there was a diner in Yorkshire that we usually stopped at because it was maybe about halfway. And they had a variety of things and always good food. And the one thing though I do remember about it is when you went to the back where the restrooms were, they were very cold. But another thing I wanted to mention when the word casual came up, diners are a place to be casual, except it still bothers me a bit that every place, Sheehan's, Seamus, everybody thinks things are casual. It would be nice to see people dressed better when they go out to eat. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Our last person who in the room here is Mary. I'm just looking online if I hit everyone there too that has spoken. I might ask. Go ahead, Mary, come on.
One more time. Eric hasn't told you his favorite diner yet. No, I do actually. My favorite diner is not located here. It's in Seminole, Florida. It's called Steak and Shake. It's like your burgers and fries diner. And we grew up there as kids when we were very little.
What was your favorite meal? Do you remember?
They chocolate shakes and burgers.
Girl after my own heart. Milkshakes. I love milkshakes. David Lacetta, one more thing from you. What? In Batavia?
Across from the YW, and that was the original Lockport.
Was it? The original reports was a diner car across from the YWCA in Lockport.
Lockport High School had no cafeteria, but it was surrounded by diners. So cliques would take over. What are you doing here? You know, this ain't your turn.
Ah.
Over there. And they had a bunch of diners around Lockport High. So Lockport High didn't have a cafeteria, didn't have an auditorium, didn't have a gymnasium, but they had the library, they had the Y, and they had all these diners to make up.
Was Lockport High School located? David was saying Lockport High School didn't have cafeteria. Were they located where they are today, or were they then at the Palace Theater on Main Street, which would make sense to have all those diners there? They would make sense. Okay, I wouldn't invest in food either if I was a school district. Send them out. Okay, Now I'm going to ask our general evaluator to come up and also tell us about his diner story if he has one. Steve?
Thank you. I've been sitting here making a few notes about everybody's restaurants. Dave, the restaurant you were referring to at 104 and 429, Oblix. It was Oblix for years.
Yes, but I went to that little tiny one that was owned by the, it was kind of like Norman, no, Thomas. They didn't make a big deal out of it, they dressed modern.
I don't know. Yoder's. Oh, anyway, and the only restaurant, nobody can hear you. The only restaurant I remember in Wright's Corners was a place called Lorenzo's. I have no idea where Wally's was. That doesn't tell me anything, Dave. Now, nope. Now I'm gonna take you right into the wall with down memory lane. You remember a wonderful diner called Your Host? About the only place open at 3 o'clock in the morning after you've been out imbibing. They go find something to eat, and it was a good thing you'd been imbibing because the food, as I remember, was not that good. No, thank you for agreeing with me. So that was my diner story. Anyway, getting on to my reason for being here. In light of all this, I love the fact that you engaged everybody to come up here and share their personal stories about their favorite diners, eating joints, hangouts, whatever. So it was a beautiful theme. Well done. Engaged everybody here. And I think it was an excellent job. Now our evaluators, as usual, have the tall job of trying to evaluate seasoned speakers, and they both did a good job at that. In fact, I even like Les. He not only suggested using props, he had a prop to show what he was talking about. That was a great touch. I like that. And the meeting is going to get done right on time. That is good. I saw you going around here working before the meeting starting, trying to get roles filled, trying to get organized. That was good. You were on top of all this. I saw your emails during the week trying to get organized. Well done meeting. And I give you high marks for the whole business. Thank you.
Thank you, even though I left the speakers and evaluators off of my agenda. So we have a few winners this morning. Table topics winner, Maggie Craig. I'll get to that. Thank you.
Can I say something?
You can.
Okay, guys, I think this is a ploy. I think that you ask the guests to speak every week and you make sure they get a ribbon so they join. Oh, I think it might be. So
That happened to me as well.
you're gonna
this
get
time.
your wish. I'm gonna join.
Best evaluator this morning, Les Robinson, evaluator. And this morning we have a tie on speakers. Great job, both of you. Kate and Larry McKenzie. Oh, here come Kate.
I can draw the winning ticket, and then Mom came up anyway, so she might as well stick around as quizmaster. And I'd like to lead us in a toast, because I don't think we did a toast. Did we do a toast?
No, we did not do a toast.
Who should we toast to, folks? All those workers in those diners, we're gonna toast to them, because some of those folks, that they live and breathe it. So to all our diner families who take good care of us and keep our coffee filled. All right.
Did we do reports?
Not yet. Mom's coming up next, and then probably Mike, and our winner is, this is good because I have a meeting at 8:30 on Zoom, so I have to leave anyway, so thank you all. Our last three numbers, 701. Any winners in the house, or was that one of the pre-purchased ones?
By the way, guys, we're still not doing very well with the ticket number and the dollar, and today we're now short.
Oh, no, we're usually like $1 over, so who took a ticket and forgot to put $1 in or something? It wasn't me this time. Anybody? Nobody? 701? Am I reading it wrong? Sylvia deserves it. She worked hard. Sylvia gets that. And then if you'd like to give your report, I guess. Okay. Oh, yeah, save your ticket.
All right. Okay, my questions are, who did Sylvia spend yesterday with? 4-year-olds, very good. Where did Dave Licata go to be on diners, drive-ins, and dives? Very good. Why did we stop? Sophia's was the answer there. Why did we stop going to Tom's Diner?
COVID.
COVID,
No internet.
technology, yes. Where did David Jones go eat in Florida? I got you. No, it wasn't Waffle House.
Lums.
Lums and Sambo's, yes. What job did Mike Florio have at Sambo's? Short order cook, very good. What is the second most recognized brand? The Red Cross, yes. What percent of blood across the country is provided by the Red Cross blood drive?
50%.
50%, very good. Where did Larry McKenzie go after work to eat?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Juniors and the Wedge.
Wedge.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
Do we get a gold star?
Emily asked Mike to come up to give us the WAG report.
Thank you again, Madam Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. I'll get the word casual out of the way first. Beth used it, Eric used it, Larry used it in his speech. Carol Ann used it twice when she came up and spoke this morning. So thank you again for using the word. When it comes to other duties, when it comes to Master and Grammarian, Kate used a lot of really good words when she answered her questions. Larry, I love your descriptive language this morning on your experiences through life. My last parting message would be this. I've always said that as so many experienced Toastmasters, we've all evolved when it comes to using filler words. That being said, it is important to go back and listen to when speeches, even if you listen to your own part, because we are really filling up with the ands, buts, and so's when it comes to the filler words usage this morning. That will be my last parting message, and I will hand it back over to our Toastmaster.
So I think we have hit the reports, and it is almost 25 after 8. Any messages before we close up the meeting?
I do.
Okay,
Right
Eric,
on here. Hi.
go ahead, Eric.
This is for all, yep, this is for all officers. I put on Facebook, we do want to do an officer meeting. What did I put on? October 27th. And that's a Sunday. So if anybody is available, we'll be meeting at 11 a.m. at Panera's. Anybody's welcome to come, but this is all for the officers meeting, so we can get on with that. So, and also Kate, are you still in the building?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. How did the DECA Toastmasters meeting for the first meeting of the year go? Oh, anybody went? Anybody wants to come up and give their report? Dave, Shannon, do you want?
She's has to run out, but Dave will be coming up and talking about it.
All right.
Thank you. The DECA at the high school was very well run by Jill DiTullio. The kids were all organized. Some of them were a little hesitant to come up for table topics, but they were encouraged and they'll do it in the future. I think it's just a great experience for these kids, because I remember when I went to college in Oswego, the one course everyone dreaded was public speaking, and they all had to take it. So if you can start the kids early, maybe even in middle school or high school, just to get the practice, to get a little bit more comfortable. As Dave Licata told me, you know, you can't, you just want to get those birds flying in the same direction
No, I don't.
instead of getting all fluttered. Butterflies, yep, getting them flying in the same direction, right? So I think the meeting went very well, and thank you, Jill DiTilio, for running the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. That's, can't agree more, you know, start early, get those butterflies in a row. And Sylvia, thanks for a great, another great meeting. It was a lot of fun this morning talking about our favorite dives, dumps and diners.
Dumps.
No. Just a few that, you know, that I'm sad to see leave though, you know, Gordy's. Man, I thought Gordy's was a good place, you know, to go. And I started thinking about late night, you know, when we had a few beers and wanted to go somewhere. There was always the seafood bar down in Alcott. Yeah, we'd hit there all the time. Anyway, and Friendlies and the little park diner where right downtown in Lockport. Nobody mentioned that one. This little tiny little thing. What were there, 4 seats in there, Dave? Oh boy, oh, it was banned. Anyway, thanks everyone. And if there are no further announcements this morning, I will shut her down. Where's my gavel? There it is. I love hitting this gavel. That's